Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kevin. I'm a tech entrepreneur, and in today's episode I want to talk about 3 tools that I've kind of rediscovered to help me be successful at building Tetheros. Because the honest truth is, if I sit back and I look at myself, I'm not that talented at a lot of things, right? I was born 5'7". I was never the fastest kid out there. I was never the strongest kid. I'm not the strongest adult neither, but I have a couple things in me that are accessible to me that help me to realize my full potential and actually be better than a lot of people at whatever, even if they're more talented than I am. And it's not something that I exclusively have. It's something that like everybody has access to. And that's kind of what I want to share with you today to hopefully inspire you to think about certain things differently. I'm not a motivational speaker, but these things that I have kind of fallen back into lately, I want to share with you because you might benefit from them just as much as me. First, it's work ethic. Work ethic is putting 100% of yourself in 100% of the time. And it's something that my parents taught me a lot about when I was little. I had this job at the Star Tribune stacking newspapers. Literally, like, this 14-year-old kid would go in there and put a bunch of newspapers together for the Sunday edition. And it was kind of a volunteer job. Like, they paid you, but you didn't have to be there. And so I would sign up and I would say I want to do 2 or 3 tables. Tables were a bunch of newspapers put together. And the work was kind of hard and tedious, and your hands were always really gross. You had all the comic ink on your hands afterwards. And after a few weeks, it was cool to make a little bit of money, but it like meant giving up a lot of my Saturday. And I kind of wanted to stop doing it. But my parents said, nope, you got to make sure that you show up. And they didn't let me say no. I had to work and show up. And so if I was going to show up, I might as well made the most amount of money I could. So I'd work as hard as I possibly could. And after, a few months of doing this, I was putting together more tables than a lot of the people in there. And most of the people in there were like adults, like working class adults. But I was absolutely killing it as a 14-year-old in there, only because I'm like, if I have to be here, I might as well do what I have to do. And that idea is also relevant for whatever circumstance we're in today. In my case, I'm building a startup, but in your case, you may be working in a career or you may be raising a family. The idea is to put 100% of yourself in 100% of the time and see what happens next. You might not be the most skilled person ever, but by committing to being aware and working hard in the moment, in the circumstances, regardless of the factors around you, like that's something you have 100% control over, and that makes all the difference. The second thing is discipline. Work ethic may be what you do in the moment when you're there, but discipline is the vehicle that gets you to the door in the first place. Discipline is saying, can I do this for a day? Can I do this for 2 days? Well, if you can do it for 2 days, can you do it for 10 days? A month? A year? A decade? Discipline is about showing up consistently, no matter what, not making any excuses. Like, we all have things going on. There's things in your life. There's reasons to say no. Yet there's people around us that tend to just show up and just absolutely kick butt time after time after time after time. Whether they go to the gym, whether they're waking up early, whether they're losing weight, they're just always there. They're like going for it no matter what and denying themselves these other things and refusing to give in to excuses. I was just at a conference and I heard Tom Brady talking about discipline. And it was pretty inspiring because he's Tom Brady. Well, if you don't know, Tom Brady was drafted 199th. He was also the backup quarterback of his high school football team, which went 0-8. And he said, you have to be pretty bad to never see the field when your team goes 0-8. So I was like, wow, that's honestly the truth. But he did commit to saying that his discipline, showing up, practicing and making the most of it, coupled with his work ethic, was a big reason for his success because he had to continue to show up even though he wasn't getting the starting time, even though he wasn't at the top of the order. That discipline of working on himself day after day after day, and even now, he's over the age of 45 and thinks he could go back and play at a high level if he was to play, which he's retired now. That discipline is the reason that he can realize his full potential as a quarterback, which in his case meant being one of the greatest of all times, but in our case, it can mean being a lot more than you think that you're capable of. After I heard him talk about that, I looked at my own life. I'm like, well, where can I really be more disciplined? And one of them is in getting up on time. I love to get up early, but I'm very here and there. Even today, I actually didn't get up that early. But right after I heard him talk, and I thought about that, I bought a $60 app on my phone called Alarmy, which forces you to get up by doing math problems, taking pictures, doing dance moves. Sometimes you have to spin or walk. Like, the app forces you to engage parts of your brain and your body to get you up before the alarm will shut off. And like, it's absolutely annoying, but for me, it's kind of the thing that I need to work. Because if I can get up 2 hours earlier, 6 days a week, that turns into 26 days a year that I can commit to building my business, which makes discipline a great tool for realizing your full potential because everybody has access to it. You just have to commit to it, which is not easy, but it is worth it. The last tool is controlling the controllables. It's easy to look around and say, that guy's got it better, that job will be better, I'd rather live somewhere else, I'd rather have more things. And honestly, that's all about looking at circumstances that are completely out of your control. If you've ever been to a job interview and you didn't get the job, it's easy to look at yourself and say, well, it must have been me. I must not be good enough. And that's the natural response. But if you've ever been on the other side of the table, you know that the conversations around hiring are complicated, right? Sometimes it really has nothing to do with you. It could just be that the other candidate went to a college that someone shares an alma mater with. These are things that are outside of your control. Dustin Poirier, UFC fighter, talked about how to deal with the stress of fight week with a week before going into a big fight. He says there's stuff everywhere, there's media, people are calling you names, people are building you up, people are tearing you down. And he says he would sit down with his coach and he'd draw a big circle on a sheet of paper. Inside of the circle, he would write down all the things that he has control over: waking up on time, putting his phone down and ignoring the media, showing up and being very professional, and all the things outside the circle he didn't have control over. And he would do his best to take the things outside of the circle and surrender them and try to not give any energy to them because it's not going to benefit him in any way because he has literally no to zero control over those things. Controlling the controllables means not believing that the grass is greener on the other side, but that the grass is greener where you water it. Going back to Tom Brady, in college, he was frustrated because on the depth chart, he was one of the last quarterbacks, and at practice, he would only get 2 reps where everybody else was getting 8, 10, and the starters would get a lot more than that. And he thought, how can I ever become good? How can I ever be what I want to be? How can I ever earn that spot when I'm getting such limited playing time? Well, he met with sports psychologist Greg Harden, who just released a book. It's a fantastic book. I recommend everybody read it. But he talked to Greg, and Greg said, well, how about this? Treat those 2 reps that you get as the Super Bowl. Like, put everything you have into those 2 reps. So Tom Brady, instead of longing and wishing for the 8 reps that he didn't have, he put everything into the 2 reps that he did have, and he started to get more reps after that. 5 reps, then 8 reps, 10 reps, and eventually he landed the starting quarterback job there. The same thing happened in his NFL career. He was starting behind Drew Bledsoe. And in Tom Brady's mind, he believed that if they ever put him on the field, they were never going to take him off, and that's exactly what happened. Because he made the most of the moment that he was given, not the moment that he wished he had. And I have to really remind myself of this because, like, I'm building a business, and I'm thinking about revenue, and I'm thinking about a team, and I'm thinking about potential clients, like dream companies that I want to work with, and like all of that is great, but right now the work in front of me is cut out. I have to work on these things that I have control over. I have control over my work ethic. I have control over my discipline. I have control over my schedule. And I have actually a lot more control now than I might have in a few years when this thing really blows up because things are small and it's just me. So it's a good reminder, right? Because it's like, hey, put everything you have in the moment that you have right now. And don't long for things that are out of your control or try to control things out of your control. You only have so much energy. And if you can put it into the things that matter most and the things that matter short term in front of you, you're going to have a much easier time realizing your full potential than just being frustrated about the world around you. That's all I have. I hope some of this was helpful, useful, insightful. If you're curious about more that I have to say, you can subscribe to the channel. Give a like to the video if you want. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.